This is Fam Electric Ghost, and we're live on the air with Adriene Caldwell for the first time. Welcome to the Fam Electric Ghost podcast. How you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for having me. It's a privilege to be here.
Well, it's fun to talk to people around the world. We've been on the air since 2016, and we like to do these live podcasts. I know this is maybe your first one, but one of the first questions we ask of any guest before they get to heart of your story is what motivates you and why do you do what you do?
What motivates me? Um, what I'm doing, what I'm about is helping provide hope to other people. I have gone through a laundry list of traumas, and I'll cover those in a minute. But I I want to get my story out to help other people know that they can make it. It is possible to get through truly horrific circumstances. Just take one step and then the next step and then the next step. And ultimately you can prevail. You can come out the other side. And really I hope to bring people hope and inspiration.
That's why we love to talk to creative people because they're like with their projects or the works they work on, it's their vision and what they want to. A lot of times, people want to pay forward from
Mhm.
their own experience, and creators tend to pull their life experience and then tell a story
Absolutely.
or give a lesson learned. You know, as we say in the
Absolutely.
software business, that's my other hat is I do software design, and there's some things that are
Nice.
equate to the arts as left and right brain world for me.
Mm,
But
got it.
so
Well,
one of the things we wanted to talk about was your book, right? I don't know where you want to start
yeah,
with that.
yeah, sure. So I am the author of the book Unbroken: Life Outside the Lines. It is the story of my life from early childhood to about early 20s. During this time, I was either the witness to or the victim of the sexual assault of a young girl, the drowning death of a child, emotional and physical abuse, extreme poverty, mental illness, homelessness, horrifically abusive foster care, bulimia, drug and alcohol addiction, pedophilia, death, suicide, and incest. So those are that's my trigger warning. That covers my life experience when it comes to traumas. And I'd be happy to share a story or two with you if you'd like to pick a topic.
Yeah, well, I'd like to kind of pick the idea of what gave you like the permission structure in your life to kind of tell your story because some people
Okay.
they don't feel they don't feel comfortable telling a story. What made you want to be a writer and then to put this into words?
So, a couple of background details. I was in foster care. I went in at 13 and at 18. I got out. But when I was about 20 years old, I asked Children's Protective Services for my case file, and they sent me this huge box, and it was filled with all my files. And at that point in life, people were saying to me, like anyone that I would talk to more in depth, which was rare. I normally wouldn't open myself up or be vulnerable to people. But when I did, I would hear, you should write a book. And
Mm.
I've heard that for 25 years, starting from around the age of 20. And anytime I've opened up, that's the feedback that I got. Now, about 4 years ago, I I finally was able to open up the box and go through my case files. And I looked at the psychiatric reports, the monthly counselor evaluations, the all the data from the very first interaction that my family had with CPS down to the judge's final decree granting me, 18 years old, independent, no longer a ward of the state of Texas. So it was going through those files, and the I have forgiven everyone with the exception of one person. I do not name her. I don't deign to give her a name. She is the bitch from hell. TBFH. And in my book, that's what her name is, TBFH. And what she did to us, and there were multiple foster girls living there, was so horrific that I was reaching out to lawyers. I was reaching out to CPS, to the old contract company that did the therapy. And everyone was telling me it's too late to do anything about it. There's nothing we can do. And that's when I said, I know what I can do. I can write a book. So it started with that in mind, and then it just blossomed. I started from the beginning, and I went through the narrative of every trauma. They're not completely in order, but that's where it came from. The whole book.
Now, in terms of being a writer, so this is your first book as a writer.
Correct.
Did you have to find assistants or find mentors, or did you just kind of build your writing capability one step at a time?
Okay. Good question. Fiverr is my best friend. You're familiar with Fiverr,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Okay. So when I was up to chapter 14, I hired 23 beta readers. I'm kind of like an all or none person. I don't do halfway very well.
Mm-hmm.
And I got that feedback. I did hire a ghostwriter to help me. And what I did is I gave her an 81-page typed chronicle of this happened, this happened, this happened, this happened. And we would talk every 3 weeks. And I would share a story like what I'm doing with you. And then she would come back from the manuscript that I provided. She would turn it, instead of an event, she would turn it into the story that we had discussed. And from there, I've had it edited and reviewed, and I have used Pro Writing Aid and Grammarly and ChatGPT. So I'm not claiming that it's all my brilliance, but I have tried to use every resource at my disposal. I wanted
I
to make.
think it's well, I think
Oh,
it's really important. From what you're saying, is like a lot of artists, or writers or people who work in the arts. It's like a team effort, and a lot of
mhm,
times some people will relay that. They'll point out like it's a collaborative effort. A lot of times, a musician isn't anything without the rest of their bandmates, the recording engineers, the producers, all the people that are involved. There's a lot of people, but you might have your name on the nameplate, right? But the people don't
mhm.
know everybody that was there. But it's just in
So
terms of
true.
the process. I'm always very interested in creative processes and how people bring something to life, or how
Okay.
they tell the story, and then how that story, how they want to present it, and
Right.
how, what the purpose is. Like you kind of you basically indicated like you felt like when you were in foster care that you weren't being protected by the system.
I was being abused. I was being abused. I'll tell you this. So my schizophrenic, physically abusive mother, she beat me regularly. I have never had a nightmare about her. The foster woman, TBFH, up until about 3 months ago, I still have nightmares, and I wake up crying at times from these nightmares about what I went through with her. So,
Was it
and
yeah,
oh, go ahead.
I just had a question in terms of like who actually governs what's going on, and
Okay.
who actually, does anybody ever ask the children in foster care how things are going, or do like how does this get prevented in the future? Is that
Okay.
part of what you're trying
Sure.
to tell with the story?
Absolutely. So, a couple statistics most people don't realize: 20% of the US prison population are former foster children. 20%. And in the state of Texas, if you are a ward of the state, so your parents relinquish rights, the state is your guardian, you can go to a public state university. So for me, I'm in Texas, any public Texas university, and the tuition and fees are completely waived. Now, out of all the foster children, 2 to 3% of foster kids take advantage of that. we have parents taking out home equity loans and student loans, and these kids have the chance to go to college for free. I did. I used it.
Yeah.
That's how I went to college. And it's not being used. And to address your question about who's watching or not watching, so the state contracts out the job of being a foster parent, and companies, for-profit companies, are set up. Not all of them are for profit. Some are, some aren't. But these companies then hire the foster parent. So the foster parent doesn't work for the state of Texas. The foster parent works for that company that the company has contracted to the state of Texas. So there is that gap right there. And for me, the reason things are so bad and kids stay in that situation, I had a therapist come. I was in therapeutic foster care. I had a therapist come every other week. And the reason I stayed was because there really was no other choice. There were no other foster homes available. No one in my family would take me. Mm-hmm. And to leave that foster home, I would have to go to a girls' shelter. And it was as black and white as that. And I had been in a girls' shelter when I first went into CPS. My first 2 nights I spent in a girls' shelter. And I was homeless the summer after 4th grade. So I know all about living in shelters. And as bad as it was, staying where I was with TBFH was better than a homeless
shelter. With a lesser
shelter.
of like a known evil.
Exactly.
It's like you're not given a lot of options, and because of the kind of third party, fourth party administration,
Mm-hmm.
like once you start getting further away from who is responsible, right? So if that company is the one that's actually got people governing them, and then they're not really doing their job, right, and no one's really, at the wheel looking to see what's going on. It seems like it's fraught with a lot of issues. And the fact that you pointed out that people have the opportunity to go to college, but then because they might be getting so damaged by the system, they don't even take advantage of it.
It's a nightmare situation, and it's actually better today. When I did this, I had to apply. I applied for at least 50 scholarships, even though I knew my tuition and fees were paid, because I had to come up with room and board, and I was taking 18 hours and honors courses, and I needed to live. Now they even take care of that, like they'll pay your dorm fee for you and stuff like that. So it is just such a shame that these kids are getting out of the system, and getting out is a problem in and of itself. They've started adding these homes where like it's a transitional living arrangement,
like a halfway house or something.
Sort of, yes. But it's not a great system. And so I went through, I was in college from 1998 to 2001. And I did graduate. I graduated in 3.5 years. I had 1 distance course. That's the half year. I did an online distance course. And it's just, everything is taken care of for them. But these kids are so damaged that it's not a viable route for them at that point. And they even have the state has a clause for this. Like, you have to take a class within like the first 2 years, but after that you can take off, go do other things, and you can come back and you can still go to college for free. Like me, forever. If I sign up at University of Houston, I'm north of Houston, I could go to law school at University of Houston for free because I was a ward of the state. My guardian was the state. So,
do you find that as people get older, do they take advantage of that, or are they still? What do you know? Any stats on that?
I don't have stats. I can tell you as a former foster girl that no, 2 to 3% of foster kids take advantage of the college. And I'm sure that's the 18 and just getting out, and freshman year's set up to be easy. You get a couple things and you go to a dorm, Everybody has to live at the dorm for the first year. So, no, it's sad. But, not only have I gone through the abuse with my mother and all the things that I listed, but being in that woman's house, do you mind if I share a couple things?
Yeah, you can
What it
share
was like?
whatever
Okay.
you want to share.
So TBFH, we were subhuman to this woman. It was her. She had two daughters, one 16 and one 20. The 20-year-old had a daughter herself. So it was TBFH, her two daughters, and a granddaughter. And she had a 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath house. And the half bath was attached to the master. So she put the foster girls, and there would be between 4 and 6 of us in the master. And that toilet was the only one that we were allowed to use. So we had one bathroom for, think about it, up to potentially 10 people in a day. And we had from the moment you shut the door to the moment you opened it, you had 10 minutes. Now, during this time, you were not allowed to use their toilet. And the last foster girl the foster girl who bathed last had to go get bleach and clean the tub with bleach before the foster mother and her kids would use the tub. We had separate dishes, separate silverware, separate food. If they were eating steak and guacamole and avocados, we were getting hamburger helper and tuna helper. And we were subhuman. We weren't allowed on the furniture. We had to sit on the floor like dogs. And I visited my family. I was actually very fortunate. I went to go stay with my brother got adopted, so once a month I would go stay the weekend with his family. And then every other weekend, my Aunt Rose would come and pick me up. And I would clean her beauty shop and spend the weekend with her. So I was actually very fortunate. Now, TBFH, she dehumanized us. I was trying on swimsuits and I came out from the bedroom to show her, and she looked at me and she said, "Your thighs are fat. I'm surprised you haven't started throwing up so that you can lose weight." She said those words. And to a 15-year-old, incredibly insecure little girl, it started
What
a battle with bulimia that I have to this day. I'm not recovered.
what do you think that she was a foster parent just for like economic interest? Because she didn't seem to have a real interest in it from a parenting point of view.
She thought she was helping us. I think I can honestly say that. She thought in her mind that what she was giving us was something good. And maybe that's how I'll bring myself to forgive her, because she thought she was
You thought she would do,
doing
even
right.
though she had the kind
But
of language.
foster parents are often foster parents because they have no profession. They have no area of expertise. They have no other employment. It is a job for them.
Yeah, that's
Being
what I
a
was trying to
foster
get at.
parent, yeah,
That it
is the
wasn't like they're
employer.
trying to be a social do-gooder or trying to do something
That's so rare.
benevolent. It's actually an income source, and then that where I kind of go back to in terms of like inspections and suitability. It doesn't like look like anybody's doing a psychological or sociological profile of this person before they're giving them children to be foster parent to. And then even if
It's a great point.
on the first point, like, okay, you didn't do an analysis, but don't you do an inspection to check the living quarters and check the behavior? So did anybody ever see that they were giving you separate meals or giving you these roles or when there's an inspection, she didn't do that, so they couldn't see it.
She knew how to hide it, and she expected us to as well. I mean, it was crazy. I mean, nowadays when I try to tell people that, I mean, we had an alarm on the outside of our door. She would turn on an alarm for us and lock us in the room. So,
Yeah, it's just
um,
like that's not. I mean, it's just basically total abuse, and
yes,
it seems like you're being prisoners and just being utilized for your cash payment that she whatever
yep.
voucher she got or whatever form of compensation is like it's just a numbers game. Well, let's pack
And
this room with as many people as we can in this house.
and she was a therapeutic foster parent, which means that she got foster girls with higher level needs, like they had emotional issues or behavioral issues. So not just the run of the mill foster children, the higher needs, and the higher needs come with higher
Hmm.
paychecks.
How did she
So,
prove that she was satisfying those higher needs? I mean, she just found a way to get through it.
and so there was a caseworker who would check in occasionally, like every 3 months. And when the person that is checking on you is also the person who like is going to determine whether or not when you see that person later in the day, when you see your foster parent later in the day, are they going to be pissed off at you for reporting them?
Oh,
You
so
know,
you're trying to
you're
encourage not
caught.
to. You get
Oh,
like
absolutely.
because like if you did report, did you ever have a situation where you had reported and you saw the bad consequence of it?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I went down that road. And one time she had work. She also extorted us manually. She taught us to paint. I painted the inside and outside of her house, including her 15-foot garage.
Wow.
I painted. Cleaning. I cleaned. She made me add bleach to the dishwater so that their dishes weren't contaminated by the foster girls. Yeah, yeah. Um,
Definitely
she
not
was
suitable, but it doesn't look nobody picked up on that.
no, and I saw girls come and go, and the only way I got out, I I was taking German. I had been in French, learning French since sixth grade. I had kind of a associate, a kid I knew, a guy I knew, and he was giving me grief for taking French. He's like, German is so much better. So the next year I signed up for German. And the teacher came out one day and handed out applications for a 1 year foreign exchange to Germany.
Oh wow.
And it was paid for by Congress. So it's a congressional scholarship to go spend 1 year abroad, 1 year in Germany. And they get thousands of applications, and about 300 American students go over to Germany for a year. It's an ongoing program. It's
Mm-hmm.
Congress Bundestag Youth Exchange. And 300 Germans come over and live in America. And went through multiple rounds of interviews. Now, of course, by this time I was seasoned in the system. I knew how to manipulate. I knew how to tell a sob story. I knew how to give them what they were looking for. I went to 13 schools growing up. I know how to meet new people and how to chit chat and talk. Um, so I gave them the person that they wanted for that role, and it was second to my daughter the best experience of my life. The
So that got
host,
you out of that home for a year.
yes,
Did
yes,
you
that
have to
was
go
my
back to the same home after?
no. So my birthday is September 7th. And when they tried to sign me up for kindergarten, my birthday was 7 days after the cutoff date of September 1. So I am basically a year older than everybody else. I got to sit out that year. So I came back in late July, and my aunt and uncle, I had lived with them previously throughout my life with my mother and brother, and sometimes with them. They took me in, and then I turned 18 in September. So I was out of foster
Out of
care.
the
I
whole
basically
system.
had 6 weeks where I was technically in their system, but they were done with me. And I actually had to chase down my caseworker and get her to go to her supervisor so that I could get the documentation for the tuition waiver.
Mhm.
And I have that paper saved to this day. If I ever decide I want to go to law school,
Yeah, well, that's important that you took advantage of the resources which other people might be so, um, affected by the situation, they want nothing to do with it. So I think it
oh,
maybe it becomes like, okay, I don't even if there's this benefit, I don't wanna take it because I don't wanna be in this space of
oh,
thinking about it.
I spiraled. I spiraled hard and heavy, and I didn't. My family, no one had gone to college, so the fact that I was, it almost felt like they thought I was better than them.
Oh, goodness.
And like I didn't have any support for, what major, or, even at the end of college, go to the job center
The
and
career fairs,
enter.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody told me to do that. So when I was in high school, there's a reason. Duke University, they had a talent identification program, and they sent me a flyer for a program where you do a year's worth of high school work in 3 weeks. It's at Northwestern in Natchitoches, Louisiana, and I went 3 summers. It was amazing. So Duke identified me from my test scores and whatnot, and sent me this program. And that is what I genuinely thought was going to happen when it came to getting a job from graduating from college.
Oh,
I
you
was
didn't realize.
in line, ready to walk across the stage, wondering, I wonder why nobody's reached out and contacted me. I graduated in 3 years. I mean, surely that's impressive.
Yeah, but I
So,
mean, like, the first generation going to college, so you don't always know if you don't have the support. Like, if you got the families that have the legacy and they've gone, grandpa went, Uncle John went, whoever went, they all know the ins and outs. They know how to get
mhm,
up the ladder. There's like that accessibility people don't realize. Like, there's work you have to do, and then if you don't have people who are supportive of
mhm.
you even doing it, then your ideas are gonna have to come from, like, I guess I gotta go look for this myself or find out, what you don't know is like you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly. Exactly. So, college, yeah,
So
I went down some bad roads. Cocaine addiction. I went hard and heavy for about 5 months. I actually finished my spring classes 6 weeks early and signed up at the University of Hamburg and moved to Germany for 3 months so I could attend a summer semester at the University of Hamburg. The whole purpose of it was so that I would get away from the people and cocaine, so that I
mm,
could detox.
detox
And
did you like
exactly.
do you like Germany a lot based
Oh, I
on
loved it. I loved it. I lived in northern Germany. People, when they think of Germany, they think of the mountains and the Lederhosen and the beer and Oktoberfest. That's not the Germany I lived in. I lived in Bremerhaven. It's on the North Sea. Literally, there's a beach. You can put your foot in the North Sea. You
Mhm.
know. It was cold. It was gray. It was rainy. The people there spoke High German. So, like, if someone's from Bavaria, I can't understand them because I
Oh, it's a
learned
different
High
dia
German.
it's
Yeah,
a different dialect.
totally. Yeah, no dialect. It's perfect German.
Oh, it's a
Whereas
perfect
what
German
they,
versus, like, a common German, maybe,
yes,
for that too.
and the people are very cold to strangers. So,
Mhm. Yeah.
um, it it took about 4 months before. And what happened is I started to go running, and I was in the car, and my host mom had picked us up. We had a school activity or something. And it was her turn to carpool. I had an amazing host family. Loved my host family. I send her flowers for Christmas. Like, I loved them.
How did that feel compared to being like, getting a host family that was so much, diametrically opposed to what your foster family was? Were you kind of worried about what your host family was gonna be like when you did these, German.
How could it have been worse?
Yeah.
What could they have done that would have been worse than TBFH's house?
So you felt like anybody else was gonna be better.
Yes, yes. I mean, my mother physically beat me and was schizophrenic, mentally ill, crazy. And I have nightmares about TBFH.
Mm-hmm.
That's the level of damage. And to this day, I have nightmares about her because we're talking about it. I'll almost bet money that I'm going to have a nightmare about her. That's how much damage she did. And this is what, 25 years later? No, 28 years later.
But in terms
So,
of like trusting people, that I would think that you would have an initial maybe not be so willing to trust people. That be able to have a kind of like a sensibility of like
mhm.
trust it but verify.
so, so on my website, Unbroken Caldwell, if you go to the documents tab, you can read. I posted pretty much all of my CPS files. So there are psychiatric evaluations of me. There are the monthly reports from TBFH. I have letters that my best friend, Neil Murray, shout out, mailed to me. And no, I had mailed to him and he kept them. So if you go on my website, you can actually see all of the clinical documentation. And I know, or I originally said that my hope is to inspire others, but I do have a secondary goal. I would love to see my book used in uh, as part of the curriculum for courses for students studying psychology or counseling focused on early childhood trauma. And to answer your question, the first psychiatric evaluation that was done on me, I was 13 years old. It is the truest, most accurate. By the time I was 14, I knew how to lie and manipulate the system. So that one wasn't accurate. At 13 years old, I bared my soul. Or no, they saw into my soul because I didn't want to share it. And my diagnosis at the end is early onset reactive attachment disorder. I have an attachment disorder. So like I said, I went to 13 schools. I'm good at meeting people and hi and chatting and, mixing. That's no problem. But I don't form attachments the way that other people do. My
Mhm.
daughter's father, we were together 7 years, and I was constantly pushing him away. You know the adage, um, break up with them before they break up with you.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I
See,
I
that's a good
was
mindset.
pushing it because I was sure he was going to leave. And it wasn't until 7 years in, we actually got divorced and got remarried. I demanded that we get remarried because every time we had a disagreement, he was like, fine, I'm leaving. I was like, we're getting remarried. Our daughter was in our ceremony. We took her on the honeymoon. It was great. So I don't trust people and I
Mhm.
don't get attached to people. My current husband, my daughter's father passed away. Um, my current husband, it'll be 7 years in August, and I trust him, and I trust my Aunt Rose, um, and my daughter, but it's a different relationship. Um, and Neil. So there are three people in this world that I trust.
So you grew to trust some people. You've kind of
Yes,
evolved, or as you've gone along, you've been able to break through some of that. What
yes.
you just said.
Neil Murray. As I said, he wrote me while I was in Germany. We had gone to we met in eighth grade at a pep rally. He was, shouting and making noise, and they were playing country music, and I looked over and I said, well, "What kind of music do you listen to?" And he was like, "Metal." I was like, "Oh, thought so." And we clicked. He liked me. He liked that I was kind of feisty, bitchy, and we actually 2 years ago we celebrated our 30th friend anniversary. We went to
Mm.
Cancun to celebrate, but I tried to get rid of him. Like I wouldn't write him back, and he was like, "Bet you better write me back."
Well, he kept on. He just persevered.
Yes, he stayed with me. And So, but
That's a
you know
keeper.
how people who live in one house and go to school with the same people and then they go off to college? I didn't have that. I was lucky if I stayed at the same school for the entire year.
Yeah, I run into
So,
people who are kind of world travelers, like expat kids.
mhm,
I talked to like third culture kids, and they're bounced around so much that they have a hard time, staying connected, kind of in your situation because they were moving around. Or their parents would get these 2-year contracts, so everybody they knew, a lot of times they wouldn't even be able to get back in touch with them if it was back in the
right.
70s or 80s when they were growing up, because there was no
My,
email.
my
But
grandfather was in the Navy. He retired from the Navy. My family moved every
it's
3 to 4 years. That's exactly. And in my family, if you're blood, we take care of you. Everybody else can go take a long walk off a short bridge.
Mhm.
And that's just, and Neil is family, but that's it. And I know that seems harsh, but I've had to protect myself since I was 5 years old. 5 years old was the first time I witnessed a trauma. My little girlfriend was sexually assaulted by a man, and I witnessed it. So at 5 years old, and it would have been me had I not turned back. That's a story for another day, maybe. But at 5 years old, I knew two things. My inner voice, that gut feeling, listen to it because it saved me that day. And the other thing I learned was little girls are not safe in this world. At
Mhm.
5 years old, that's what I knew.
That's a hard lesson, to learn, and then also you have to build your armor up, and you can understand trust issues. Like if you have, people who are victims or suffer abuse at a young age, you have
Hmm.
to build up, coping mechanisms,
Oh yeah.
and the coping mechanisms, they can eventually be kind of like the albatross around your neck if you're trying to progress in your life if you can't get out of like a bad loop.
Well, there are healthy, positive coping mechanisms. Taking a step back, deep breathing, visualizing, mantras, and there are unhealthy coping mechanisms. Self-medicating with drugs and
Mhm.
alcohol. I absolutely did that once I got off cocaine, and I never did it again after I came back from that summer semester abroad. Um, but I substituted alcohol,
Mhm.
and I am not a happy drunk. All of the anger and all of the rage from everything that I've experienced in my life comes out. It's like that wall, that barrier that keeps all of it in. It's like that barrier goes
Comes
away.
down. Oh, yeah, so you
Yes.
get it like a permission. Well, the thing is, like, once you realize you have an addictive personality,
Oh yeah.
you have this, like, what do you substitute, like, gambling? You substitute something else because, like, what you have to kinda realize, like, that looking glass self moment is, like, I have an addictive personality. If I don't
Mhm.
watch it, I can get extreme about many things. Uh,
Absolutely.
and so it's a kind of mindfulness, self-awareness that, like, it never goes away. You have to kinda keep on top of it, and then, not everybody can
Absolutely.
stay on top of everything because like, things can happen. So it's like, every day you just have to live through that day and try to get through
Right.
that day one step at
Mhm.
a time, right?
When my daughter was born, I didn't think I was going to be able to raise her. And on my website, on my second psychiatric evaluation, it has in there afraid to have kids in case she does what happened to her.
Mhm.
Um, when I had my daughter, I told her grandparents, no, I told her father that I wanted him to go back with his parents. They had come over to help for the first few weeks, and I wanted them to raise her because I couldn't do it. And I was drinking and going out, and I woke up on, so she was born August 7th. I woke up on the bathroom floor mat on November 8th, and that is the day that I decided I was going to raise my daughter And I was going to give her the childhood that I didn't get. And from that moment on, it goes back to the attachment disorder. I didn't immediately bond with her. I had to make a conscious decision that I
Mhm.
was capable. I can do this. And I don't do NA or AA. I don't do group talk.
Mhm.
It's just not for me. I make a decision and then I abide by it. And that's how I get through it. And giving her the childhood that I didn't get involved me getting a profession. I became a certified financial planner. I sold stocks and bonds and mutual funds. I was a financial advisor. I sold insurance. I worked for a very prestigious military affiliated company. And um, her father, he had a he trained to be an opera singer. He had an incredible voice. Unfortunately, he didn't pursue that. So we moved around a bit. We started in Seattle, went up to Anchorage, came down to San Antonio. And in San Antonio, I told him, you can either work in the oil field or you can learn to go drive a truck. You take your pick. He thought I was trying to get him killed by going to the oil field. So I signed him up and he went and he got a CDL and he drove a truck. So I working full time on, in my profession and raising our daughter, as a working single married mother. So I had to take care of her and raise her. And for the first year or so, he would be gone 2 or 3 weeks at a time. He
Mhm.
eventually got a position where he was home on the weekends, and that worked great because I love him. He is my soulmate. I will forever say that. But living together, we should not have lived together ever. It
Yeah.
was nuclear. When he decided he didn't want to drive a truck anymore and he came home, oh, it was awful. It was awful. So, yeah, I'm not sure where I was going with that,
But
but
that's that makes sense with, like, your attachment, issues, like, maybe you can't stand being that connected for any length of time, or was it just him?
no, it was him living with him. When he came home and was home every day, that's when we got divorced. Um,
'Cause the compatibility issues really.
yes, and not psychological, because I knew him, I trusted him, and when he told me that he hit rock bottom, that he was going to have to move back to Seattle, which is where we started, um, that he wasn't going to be able to make his rent. He had nowhere to go. That's when I told him. I just looked at him. I said, "Move in with me. Come sleep on my couch. You're not leaving our daughter." And I that afternoon, I went to the guy that was dating me and trying to get engaged with me. I was dodging that, and I just told him, because in my heart I knew that I was in love with my daughter's father,
Mhm.
and I knew it wouldn't be right to pursue any other relation. I was happy that he was coming back home, and I was putting my family back together again, and that meant more to me than anything else. So, yeah. And he came, lived with me. I helped him get on his feet. It was funny when we got divorced. I actually served him papers at the airport. He had just taken a trip with our daughter to England. He was British, by the way. And so we arranged for child support and it would come out of his paycheck. And when we got remarried, we didn't bother telling the state of Texas to quit taking the money out. We just left that arrangement as it was. So the state of Texas made a monthly deposit of child support, even though we were married.
Oh, wow.
That's how it worked out. And it worked for us. So,
Well, you
as
have
a
to
financial
everybody's
planner,
life is its own thing. You have to figure out what works in your
exactly.
relationships for you. Like, there's no real roadmap trying to comparison, like, to other people is, like, sometimes
Yeah.
it doesn't work, you know? You have to
Well,
know what
and
works for you.
50% of marriages end based on money, lack of it, or,
Yeah.
problems.
Yeah.
And comes down to compatibility. So,
What are
anyway,
the most valuable lessons that you've learned over all your experiences, that you maybe you've put them into the book, but,
I
what do you
haven't. I'm happy to share a couple. Um, Probably my number one is it can always get worse. You will never hear me say, and I do mean never, say, well, it can't get any worse. It can't be, nothing else can happen to make it worse. It can always get worse. And when you think like that, what you're doing is you're telling yourself to be grateful that it's not something worse. That even though your situation is kind of sucky, be grateful that it's, no matter what it is, it can always go down. And I keep that very close to me, so that no matter what is happening, I know it sounds negative to say, it can always get worse, but when I put it in my mind, it's to be grateful and to be thankful,
Mhm.
and to be in the moment and to be present, because there are so many blessings that have been bestowed, that yes, suck it up. You had a bad day. You had, I adhere to that. A couple others. I think most people try to make the best decision they can with the information they have at the time. I don't think people go out and try to make bad decisions. I just genuinely, despite everything I've gone through, I think that people are generally good. People, for the most part, they don't go out to try to hurt somebody, or to try to cut you off in traffic, or to try to hurt you, or anything like that. Um, at, After the last beating my mother ever gave me, we were on a bus. Um, we were on a Greyhound bus going to San Francisco to go live close to the man who was in prison as a serial rapist and murderer. My mother had corresponded with him. She beat me with a wooden dowel rod, a clothes rod, what you hang your clothes up on in the closet. That's the only way I was 12. That's the only way she could get me to go on the bus. And on that bus ride, that 2-day bus ride, my mother was sitting next to my 4-year-old brother. I was sitting next to this little Hispanic woman. And bear in mind, this is summer in Houston. Everybody's in t-shirts and shorts. And I had on full length pants, full length shirts. And the second day, I lifted my shirt up and showed the bruises on my arm from where I was laying on the ground like this, covering my head. And I had bruises here where my mother, if my arms hadn't been there, it would have been a blow to the head, multiple
Mhm.
blows to the head. And she looked at me and she just said, hope for the best, expect the worst, and accept what comes. And it was not the intervention or the help that I desperately needed. I did get it, thank you God. There was an intervention and I did receive assistance. That actually triggered all the CPS stuff. And
Well, that event.
CPS actually missed an opportunity there when they had come out the prior week, and the social worker didn't look in the records. CPS had been called in first grade. So when they were called again in sixth grade, that should have been a red flag that this is a multiple instance. And,
Mhm.
this is back in the day. We're talking 1980 something. So it wasn't computerized, but
Yeah.
I have the actual paper, not the literal paper. I have a copy of the paper from that first grade. It's on my website for everyone to look at. Like I was saying, I hope between my book and my website that um, my story gets used for clinical purposes. I'd love to be a part of training the next generation of counselors and psychologists.
Well, I think they need to be able to look into your story and see the red flags that you've described on the show today, and the better gatekeeping of the foster parents,
Mm-hmm.
better review of the situation going on in the homes, and a way to not put you in the situation where it's like, well, you didn't want to get out of the home because you thought it would be worse.
Right. Well, it's a supply and demand situation. They
Yeah.
don't have enough foster parents. That's
So then
it.
so it ends up being a
So,
situation where you can have these really bad foster parents actually still in the system because there's nobody else
like
to
I
go to.
said, it can get worse.
Yeah.
You live with your really bad foster parent, but at least you're not in the girls' homeless shelter.
Yeah. Because then you're at
So,
the shelter or you're in these other situations
then
or
you
even
get out
more.
on the streets, you couch surf. It's bad. It's bad. So, yeah. And my psychiatrist is waiting for the book to come out because she knows several, she's close to Austin. She knows several higher up people within CPS and the system, judges and whatnot. And she's going to give it to them. And I sincerely hope that my story makes a difference.
Are you going to go on a book tour circuit, like find convent book? Have you found any way to bring it on the road to go to book stores or book conventions or author conventions? Is there anything like coming up?
So nobody has invited me yet. I'll put that yet out there, hopefully. Um, I am signed up for a virtual book tour, um, but it'll just be 4 or 5 podcasts. I don't think it's really anything more than that. I would love to do book signings and book readings. Give me the where and the when, and I'll be there.
Yeah,
But and I looked into conventions, and it just didn't quite
fit
fit.
or line. You couldn't find the right
Right,
convention for the topic. Like maybe,
right.
maybe if there's somebody out in the audience that knows of like has been listening, maybe they can send some notes to us on our channels and we can send it back to you, like on 'cause we're on Facebook, YouTube, and
That'd
LinkedIn,
be awesome. Unbroken
especially on
Caldwell's
LinkedIn.
my handle on my Facebook, on my Insta. So Unbroken Caldwell.
Especially on
I,
LinkedIn, because there might be a lot of people who know what the groups are,
you
that
know,
know.
I'm not on LinkedIn.
Yeah,
You're absolutely right. I am missing opportunities there.
yeah. Well, this
Thank
goes
you.
out to my channel there, and hopefully there are people who see the synergy with what they're doing, and maybe they'll
Mhm.
offer you a way to connect, because that's a good place to be. So maybe that's a good to kind of pay it forward. It's like, oh yeah, set up a profile. But the other thing I would say is like what I've been talking to a lot of authors that are doing like audiobooks. Are you thinking about doing an
Oh
audiobook
yes,
for this?
absolutely. Now the hard part is deciding if I'm going to narrate it myself or if I'm going to have someone else. I actually have
Voiceover.
a woman selected
Hmm.
in case I decide not to do it myself. Now, according to Joe Rogan, you should always do it yourself.
Yeah, I've talked to people on the show. Well,
Okay.
I've talked to some people on the show that if you're a nonfiction author, it is kind of recommended for you to narrate your book. Like fiction authors, sometimes because their stories
Right.
they need to, they're like plays, so they have to have a bunch of different voices. But when it's
Hmm.
a nonfiction book, a lot of times there's a lot of benefit of you using your own voice.
Yeah. Yeah. So, what I haven't said is how hard it has been for me to put this book out. Just writing it. I've been on this book for 4 years, going on 4 years, and it's just brutal because I have, every trauma, every incident, I put in a metaphorical box, and then I put it on the shelf, and then I close the door.
Mhm.
And writing this book, I've taken each box down and opened it and dealt with it and looked at it. And going through each box on my shelves, it's my husband cannot wait for me to be done with the book because he wants the happy, happy, yay, yay, Adriene. He doesn't want the Adriene just talked about, horrifically abusive foster care, or suicide attempts. He's ready for it to be done.
Oh, well, the thing is when it's coming out, it can kind of cascade to, if you do an audiobook, if you get on a circuit, you could still be talking about it.
Yeah,
Because if it's successful, you will be talking about it more. So that's the other, it's always the rub, like when you
you're
put
right.
something out in the world and you're an artist and you expose your vulnerabilities. If
Mm-hmm.
you're a musician, your album is about you.
Yeah,
And then your hits, like you're on stage, everybody exposing that to the world
right,
night after night, year after year, happen to do that. Sometimes
right,
we don't think about it, but that's what, sometimes we have to, oh, maybe I should put that in my, on the
right.
roadmap that, yeah, I mean, I may have to handle that and figure out how do I handle that.
That's a great point, actually. I've gotten so far as I will not read any reviews. I'm going to let my husband filter. He can give me the positive reviews. I don't need to know about the bad ones. But I haven't come up with a strategy yet. And you're right. I am going to be dealing with the book. Hopefully, even after it's published. I do think that writing it and really reading it and editing it's so visceral for me.
Mhm,
And in the book, it is unflinchingly candid. I do not mince words. A little girl sexually assaulted. I saw her bloody dress and limp body, laying over my uncle's arms, and it's graphic. That's why I do have that trigger warning,
mhm.
and it's in my book, um, because I don't shy away from anything. Um, and my book is not for anyone under 18.
Well, yeah, it's important.
Absolutely not.
Well, and
But
we do this show, we have like for different episodes, we have a maturity level for different episodes that we'll have that for this episode. But why I think it's important for people to tell like their story as it occurred,
mm,
and you have your experience, that's what you're putting out into the world for people to understand. So there's a lot of things in terms of like law of attraction, this idea.
mm,
If you put out a story that resonates with people, that other people will say, well, I felt that, I've experienced that, then they see they're not alone in the world. So I think it's important for people to tell the stories they don't, that maybe it's hard,
yes.
and to put it out there in the world, and you're kind of opening a wound. But it is, but to be honest about it and to put it out there allows other people to see, like, I can now speak out, or I can go now and think about, handling this situation instead of
Yeah.
burying it.
That's absolutely my hope and my dream for it. The, I will consider this a success, my book a success, if I fundamentally, profoundly change one person's life. That's all I need, just one person. If I accomplish that, it will have been worth everything. The time, the tears, the money, everything.
Well, I'm sure that that your book will do that, and I want to thank you for being on the show today. We do have your link, www.unbrokencaldwell.com. That will be fully clickable on all the platforms that we're on. We're just been on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, and so within those podcast descriptions, that URL is immediately clickable. So if people want to go find out more about how they can pre-order or order the book, I'm sure, is that how if you go to their website, can you do that?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
great. We do encourage people to click on the links of the guest that we have on the show. And I want to thank you for being on the Family Electric Ghost podcast tonight.
It has truly been a privilege to be on your podcast with you. I think we've had a great conversation, and I am honored that you gave me this opportunity to speak to your audience. It's been great. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, have a good weekend. And I thank you again for being on the show.